spinal waves. So I'm going to do a video on how to do spinal waves properly. Originally kind of put out there by Ido Portal. They're aimed at mobilizing the spine, improving movement through the spine, improving control of the spine, and moving all the fluid and signals and stuff up and down the spine and getting it going. Really good for people who have to sit a lot, especially if you sat kind of rounded spine on a laptop all day. Doing lots of these will be really good for your spinal health. If you've got a locked, tight spine with very little mobility, then that's going to have a knock-on effect into the shoulders and into the hips. So your lower back pain, shoulder issues, if you haven't got good spinal mobility. So yes, they look a bit mental, but they are really legit way of freeing your spine up. So the way you do it, first of all, you need a wall to give you some feedback so that you can make sure you're doing them properly to start with. You can come away from the wall once you can do them, but I'd definitely recommend doing them against the wall. You'll see why in a second, because there are some common errors that happen if you're not using a wall or have not been shown how to do them properly. So how to do them properly, start off slow, and the idea is to get fluid sort of movement through the spine, flexing, extending up and down the spine. In order to sort of cue that using the wall, we're going to do a segment at a time. So I'm going to start stood with my feet about 5 or 6 inches away from the wall. At no point am I ever going to lean on the wall and put some weight on the wall. The wall is purely there just to brush against and to touch. So we'll start at the top, and again this is different kind of, but this is a basic front spinal wave. So we've got nose, chin, chest, we'll say, sternum, ribs, bottom of your ribs, belly, hips, and that's what we're looking at going for. There's a few constraints. The constraints are that once something touches the wall, when the next thing comes into contact with the wall, the previous thing that has been touching the wall is then coming off the wall. So you'll only ever have one of these points in contact with the wall at any one time, and we're trying to focus on movement of the spine. So I'm going to show you how to do one slow. So the way we do them slow, we'll start off by coming into the wall and making contact with the nose. So we're going to go nose, then chin, then chest, then ribs, then hips, and then back to nose, chin, chest, ribs, hips, come back in, and then we get into doing a full movement of the wave, and that's how we do a spinal wave. There are some very subtle ways of doing this wrong, so I'm going to show you what we're talking about. I'm hoping you can see my spine, what my spine is doing. So first things first, when I come, always in the back of your mind, we're trying to get the spine moving. So if I say nose to touch the wall, if I simply do this, my spine hasn't changed shape at all in doing that. So if I just reach forward and put my nose on the wall and then my chin, my spine's not changing shape at all. So in order to initiate the movement, we want to try and get coming into the wall with the nose, we're getting as much flexion in the spine, so we're rounding the back as much as possible to come into the wall. So you can see I've got this kind of rounded back now. Then when I go to chin, I'm slowly starting to change the flexion extension in the spine. So then when I come to chest, I'm thinking about bringing my chin away. My nose should be even further away. My chest comes into contact, so now my nose is further away, chin's a little bit closer, my chest is in contact, and then when I come to ribs, again, my chest is away, chin's further, nose is even further. So I'm trying to get as much, you can see my back's rounded now in the opposite direction. I'm then going to roll through into my hips, and now my nose is at the furthest thing away, then my chin, then my chest, then my ribs, then my hips, etc. So the way that works is, at no point am I just going to hinge into the wall with a flat spine. when we come from this bottom position to reload, I'm going to think about rounding my back as much as possible, coming back into that starting position with my nose touching the wall. Again, I've got a rounded back. So the whole time we're thinking about the spine being as mobile as possible. We want to be as loose as possible, so it shouldn't be kind of rigid and sort of robotic. We want to try and feel loose, just nice relaxed breathing, and we're just trying to get into this kind of nice, smooth, relaxed spinal movement. That's what we're after. The other last thing to talk about is this bit here, because again, when I was saying about coming in and hinging here, and we miss out all the good stuff of the round in the back, the other common one is once my ribs are in contact, so I'm here, bottom of my ribs is in contact, it's quite easy to go from here, so I've got my hands on the wall, to go to hips, so ribs to hips, and we're not actually rolling all the way through. So a really good cue once we've got ribs on is to try and make sure that the belly, get a big power belly going on, and the belly is in contact all the way down until we get to the ribs, so that at no point is there a gap between the wall and your body. But like I say again, I'm not leaning on the wall, there's no weight on the wall at all, I'm not leaning on the wall. So nose, chin, chest, ribs, belly, hips. Make sure we're getting the belly, because this little bit here is where we can really focus on arching the lower back and getting some movement in there. When we reset from the ribs, like I said, we're going to reset by really focusing on, again, rounding the back as much as possible, because we want to try and round that lower back, because that's another place that gets stiff. So we're focusing on nice fluid movement and rounding and extending the spine as much as possible, and that's it. That's a spinal wave. There's two ways to do it. Reps, 100 easily is a good option to go for, because we're doing small sort of fluid movements. We're not really going it's not like a mobility piece. Reps is what counts, so 100, 200, 300 reps. You're looking up to 10, you can do these for 10 minutes, and the longer you do them, the more you'll get out of them. So either do them for reps, like 100 reps on a morning, or set a clock is the other way, so you're not counting as you're going. You want to try and zen out and just really focus on moving properly, but as nice and smoothly as possible the whole time. So either like a 5-minute clock or 100 reps, and just keep moving for that entire time, all those reps. Do that for a month and see what happens. I guarantee you'll feel better for it, and you'll have a lot more sort of freedom in your spine, etc.